Hey guys, so it's been a long time since I've done a video. I guess I've just been kind of lazy and busy and all kinds of other stuff. But nothing will bring me back to YouTube more than discussing DC film news. And we've had a lot this week. So I thought I would give my take on it, kind of break down a few things going on, and we're going to go from there. Yeah, I tried making this video at the beginning, like earlier in the week when the Batgirl news came out, and I tried originally doing a live stream, or I tried making a video in my car, and it was too hot, so my phone overheated. And then I tried doing a live stream, and the live stream worked, so some people may have seen that, but for some reason it didn't save on my channel. So I'm just gonna make a video talking about it now, especially now that we've had even more news at the end of this week. So I hope it makes sense, because I'm going to be kind of rambling, but I'm also going to try to keep it as, in order as possible. So I'm not going to break down the entire history of DC's movies. I'm not going to break down what's been going on with, since Man of Steel or anything like that. I'm really going to talk about the most recent stuff and kind of go back and maybe talk about those within, but I'm not going to give a whole history because it's a lot. And if you don't know that story by now and you just think DC is not doing well with their movies just because they suck, I would do some research and see kind of why these issues keep happening. A lot of it is mismanagement. A lot of it is bad choices and release dates and directors and things like that. There's a lot to it. But most people know the gist of why we are here. But just earlier this week, we just got news that Zaslav and Discovery, who is merging with Warner Brothers, bought Warner Brothers. They're now starting to make their voices heard with what they want to do, and it's definitely a sign of things to change. It's scary to me, but it's also exciting and it's also sad. And I just thought I'd kind of talk about some of it. So I don't remember what day it was. Was it Wednesday or Thursday afternoon? It was announced that the Batgirl movie that was going to be directly for HBO Max has been canceled. And the biggest controversy about that is the fact that it was pretty much done from what we've heard. Everything was shot. Now, from the director's point of view, they've made some statements, and it sounds a little bit more like they had more work than people think. I think they did have a lot of like VFX and editing to do. But as far as we know, like them just utterly canceling a movie is pretty unprecedented, and it's something that we haven't really seen too often in Hollywood in general. But this movie was going to be, I think it was originally on a budget of like $70 million. And it was going to be directly for HBO Max. It was kind of approved by Walter Hamada and the executives at Warner Brothers kind of before this Discovery merger was happening. Basically they were going to have that kind of, the biggest issue I have with it, and the thing when it first was announced, is just the fact that it's a movie that is kind of combining a lot of weird ideas. And I recently haven't been as on board with the direction of DC. I've kind of been a live or die DC guy with movies. I love Marvel. I've been watching all their movies obviously as well, but DC I've been really rooting for, and I've been really trying to defend their choices for about 10 years now, and it's just not going anywhere. And it really started when I started to see kind of the aimless direction that they were having with a lot of their movies and a lot of their properties. And Batgirl was one of those. And it's not because I don't dislike Batgirl. It has nothing to do with the cast. It has nothing to do with the choice of putting it on HBO Max. For me personally, it's just really hard for me to see some of these characters that are stemming from tentpole characters, that those tentpole characters have a directionless place to go. So Batgirl, obviously, kind of spawns off of Batman. She becomes her own character in the comics, and she is very independent. But it starts based off of Batman. And when you don't know whose Batman is who at this point, it's difficult. Ben Affleck obviously hasn't been around. He's pretty much over it because of Justice League. Robert Pattinson's Batman has nothing to do with this. And then you ask yourself, is this part of the DCEU? And you have J.K. Simmons as Commissioner Gordon. And then you have who is in the Snyderverse and in Justice League. And then you have Michael Keaton's Batman. Now, I get it, there's a lot of multiverse jumping, but we're getting a little lost in the weeds here, I think, because We're seeing it with the Aquaman movie. We got news that Ben Affleck will be in Aquaman, and it's not because Ben Affleck is coming back. It's not because he is going to be Batman again. It's just not. As much as that would be cool to see, the reason Ben Affleck is going to be playing Bruce Wayne in that movie is because Michael Keaton already shot footage as Bruce Wayne in that movie where he was going to kind of give, I think, Aquaman some advice or something. And the reason it was going to be Michael Keaton is because the original plan by the old guard was to have Michael Keaton become the core Batman of the universe. Basically, in The Flash, which has been long delayed all this time, they're doing kind of a Flashpoint thing, and he reverses the timeline, and the multiverse kind of comes through, and things happen. And Michael Keaton was going to appear in that movie, which he still probably is. We don't know at this point what's going on with that, but Michael Keaton was going to be the Batman in that, and he was going to help Ezra Miller Flash. And then by the end of it, you're going to see Ben Affleck at the beginning, and then something was going to happen to where maybe he would disappear or possibly die, and you don't really know his fate. And then Michael Keaton would come back to this universe, the DCEU universe, with Ezra Miller Flash and be kind of the mentor Batman. So in Aquaman, he was going to be in that as Batman, and he was also going to be in this Batgirl movie. But they had to switch that because Flash is no longer coming out before Aquaman, because that movie keeps getting delayed because Ezra Miller is Psycho. And so since that's all happening, it wouldn't make sense. People would be so confused if you go to Aquaman and you see Michael Keaton's Batman giving Jason Momoa Aquaman advice. So they had to bring Ben Affleck in to kind of do that same part, but as Ben Affleck. Because then once Flash happens and the Michael Keaton stuff happens, then you're good to go. Well, from the executives over at Discovery, they don't like that. We were also going to see a Supergirl, and I think they just thought to themselves, okay, here's the thing. We have actors from multiple different universes at this point, like J.K. Simmons. You have the Batman with Robert Pattinson. You have Michael Keaton from the '89 movies. You have Jason Momoa from the DCEU. Where's this gonna cohesively work for us? Where are we gonna be able to make this become something that people can follow? And it was getting a little lost in the weeds. And so I think, the executives over at Discovery finally thought, we gotta start over. And that's what I've been thinking for probably about 2 years now, maybe a year and a half. I've been kind of telling myself, I like these characters. I like Aquaman. The Black Adam movie is looking really good. I think I'm really excited to see characters like Dr. Fate and Hawkman and Atom Smasher and all of that, of course. I'm excited for the sequel to Shazam. I'm excited for Aquaman 2. However, they're tentpole characters, thinking of Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman. Wonder Woman's kind of in limbo right now just because I think Wonder Woman 1984 didn't quite work as well as everyone thought. So they're kind of reassessing, not saying they're going to recast Gal Gadot. She's a pretty big actress right now. But I think they want to make sure that they don't do a third movie that isn't as good either as the first one. Because for me personally, Wonder Woman 1984 just was not what I think anybody was looking for. But personally, I was not looking for that movie. So you have her, you have Henry Cavill, who, everybody's been championing to be Superman, and everybody wants him to be, but Warner Brothers just does not want to work with him. I don't know, we've heard multiple rumors that he's hard to work with, or that it was something he said, or it was, he kind of overstepped a boundary when it comes to, wanting to be in charge of the Superman property, or not the property, but the movie, the next movie. And whatever happened, they just don't want to work with him. And no matter how many people want to see him as Superman and how much as he wants to be Superman, it's just, The Rock got booed at Comic-Con this year because he mentioned Henry Cavill, and everyone's so pissed. So Henry Cavill's lost with that. We don't really know what's going on. Ben Affleck, I think, I'm pretty sure the Batman role is what kind of brought him back into his alcoholism and kind of screwed up his personal life, and I just don't think he has it in him to keep doing that. He's older, and he was older when he got the part, and I think he's just kind of over it. He's doing a lot of these cameo appearances in these other movies as Bruce Wayne as kind of a favor to Warner Brothers, because he wants to be in good graces with Warner Brothers because they fund a lot of his own movies that he loves. So that's where you're seeing him. So you got to kind of think of it from an executive standpoint. You got to think of it from a money standpoint and from a creative standpoint. From an executive standpoint, you want to make your own mark. You want to be the person who, comes in and has your own stamp and say, this is what I put out. This is what I did. This is what I love. And these movies have kind of been in this kind of changing era of Warner Brothers, and no one can really claim them at this point besides the people who basically greenlit them. And Discovery hasn't greenlit anything really up to this point. And so from that perspective, I think that's what they're kind of thinking. And then from a creative standpoint, it's just so confusing from all the different things that people, the fans want, the executives want, the old executives want, the actors want, the directors want, the continuity needs. Like it's just, we're getting into this really weird place where we don't really, if you follow it, you can figure it out, but for a general audience member, it's really difficult. And then from a money standpoint, it's just, they say it's because, there's had nothing to do with the actors or the performances or anything like that. It was strictly money, and they just are going to do it as a tax write-off. And because they do it as a tax write-off, they get some money back, but there's no legal way they could ever release any part of this movie. While I think they are true in doing that, and I understand kind of why they're doing that, I think for the good graces of the fans, I think it would have been better just to release it and see what happens. But you also have to think from that executive standpoint again. If you are coming in here and wanting to make your mark, the first thing you will be releasing basically with this new ownership is going to be this Batgirl movie. There are rumors that there were some really bad test screenings. There are some rumors that there were some decent test screenings. Regardless, I think the executives there in Zaslav just really looked at it and thought, is this what we're going to start with? When we just have this merger and we're talking about all these, people think there's going to be all this change. We can't release the first thing and have it be like bomb and be like, we lose a ton of money. They're already in debt, And so I think it was a really hard call. And I think from a moral standpoint, it probably would have been better to release it. I think from a business standpoint, I kind of understand why they didn't release it. And I feel really bad for the cast and crew. I mean, they got paid for it, but I feel bad that their work won't be shown. I do have a weird confusion with a lot of these people who are defending it like they saw it and they just like it's going to be great. It's kind of like the Snyder Cut, where as much as I thought this Snyder Cut was a huge improvement and I really enjoyed all 4 hours of it, a lot of people were like, oh my God, they've been wanting this Snyder Cut for however many years and it's finally coming out. It better be good. And then it's just kind of better for a lot of people. It's not the best thing ever. And I think I have this feeling that a lot of people, if they saw the Batgirl movie, if everyone saw the Batgirl movie, I wonder if the tone would change again, where they'd kind of be like, oh, I see kind of why this was not working. I've heard that it just feels cheap. It's not really working out for a lot of people. And who knows? Going away from that for a minute to kind of talk about this merger. So, I'm not going to go into this too much either. It's in the news. If you live under a rock, I'm sorry, but it's just not worth regurgitating all the news. But Discovery bought Warner Brothers. Discovery has their own streaming service, Discovery Plus. Warner Brothers has their own streaming service, HBO Max. They've decided that they are going to get rid of both of those, and all of the content from both of those are going to come together next year in 2023 to one big streaming service. Now, the newest murmurs I'm hearing is that it's going to be Warner Brothers something or WB something, some kind of streaming service with WB in it. It's not going to be Discovery Max. It's not going to be HBO Plus. It's not going to be, anything like that. And I think the idea is just they have two markets. They're trying to put them together. We'll see how that works. I'm not going to really go into that too much because as much as it has to do with this, it's a whole other ballgame. It's a business thing and there's a lot of streaming services and a lot of comparisons and things. But from what I'm hearing, it sounds like it's going to be all the content that you wanted is now going to be on these services. You may have to pay different, things. It may be more expensive because there's more on it. But it sounds like all the content that you either like from Discovery Plus or all the content you like from HBO Max are going to come together on this service in a year. This is just another restructuring move. I mean, this happens all the time. A lot of people the thing that's bothering me most about this whole situation is a lot of people on Twitter and places like that are like thinking that Zaslav's going to come in and he's just going to shoot DC in the head and throw it in a ditch. That's not a good investment at all for anyone. And it would basically just be, career suicide. Regardless of what his future plans are for it, what we've been hearing is he has a 10-year plan, which we've heard. I know people have said that a million times too. He has a 10-year plan that is going to really focus on DC, and really it's about quantity or quality over quantity. There's no, he says, I don't want to release a movie if it's not ready, or if I don't believe in it, or if we don't believe in it. And all of the DC movies he now wants to be in theaters. He doesn't want it to be on a streaming service. There are a couple exceptions I'm sure that'll come out of it, but post COVID, it's kind of hard to hear, but we have a lot of these streaming services that have now taken this new route of, let's release a lot of our major content on streaming services, and before, and like when at the same time as theater, only in streaming, things like that. And according to the executives at now Warner Brothers Discovery, what they're finding is that it's not the most viable option for making the money that you need for a budget that high in a movie. Regardless of if that's true or not, I get where they're coming from, and it's definitely a different tactic than Disney. Disney is just really just throwing everything into this streaming service, and they're really just betting on the subscribers and things like that. But I think what Zaslav is kind of seeing is, we're going to put all this money into a movie, and we put it on a streaming service, and people are paying for that streaming service. But if you look at it in the end, the amount of money going into this streaming service that they're paying to watch the movie 20 times if they want to isn't as much as if it's a movie that is this big spectacle that everyone loves, and they want to see it multiple times before it hits Blu-ray or streaming, and they go pay for a ticket in the theater. I think he thinks that that's just not, it won't work. And so, like I said, regardless of if that's true or not, I see where that is kind of heading. And I'm interested to see what happens and if they follow through with it. Now, going back to talking about some of these people on like Twitter and things, first off, DC is not going to lose its comics division anytime soon. They've gone through much worse times along with Marvel, where they just haven't done that. In the future, possibly. But right now, none of this has to do really with that right now. They're really focusing and talking about their movies, which are making them lose so much money. When it comes to Batgirl and the idea that, he's making a bad choice, it is kind of a shitty thing to do, but also you got to look at it from an executive standpoint. It is his job to make money. That's just his job. Regardless of if people don't like that, it's his job. And how he does it could be questioned, can totally be questioned, but it just is what it is. And we have to also remember, Zaslav is not Kevin Feige. Zaslav is looking for a Kevin Feige. He's looking for the person who will lead DC, which ties into the other thing I wanted to talk about. DC itself is now getting its own studio. So if people didn't know, DC kind of was just working under the banner of Warner Brothers. So they had all of these executives through Warner Brothers kind of in charge of all of that. And they were able to kind of give their opinions on the whole thing. It wasn't kind of this smaller subsect of Warner Brothers. Marvel, for instance, they are Marvel Studios within Disney. So they have their own studio within the budget of Disney. And, most higher ups don't have as much firsthand. They just are trusting that studio to do these things. And they have kind of an order of people within their employment who can kind of say what's bad and what's good and what doesn't work and what does work. I think this is a huge step for DC, and I think it's one of the reasons why a lot of people, I get a little irked when people say, they did this 10-year plan 10 years ago and it didn't work. Well, first off, all of those people are pretty much gone now. And second of all, being someone who's worked personally at Warner Brothers, I don't like to sit there like I'm bragging it. Just what I saw, there is a lot of executives in suits who don't understand a lot of their content and don't understand what the audience want. They just look at the ones and the twos and they want to know why it's not connecting. And regardless of what they say, they go, well, we need more money, so we're going to do this instead. With this new DC studio, if you have kind of this order of hierarchy within it, you can have those people like Kevin Feige that they can hire. You can have those creative people like Jon Favreau and things like that. And you can get people in there who can really have a good idea of it and really stick to a plan. Because the biggest problem that DC had was the moment their movies started to not have a good Rotten Tomatoes score, which is pretty much right off the bat, they caved in and they started changing in the middle of their plan and they didn't stick to it. Marvel, on the other hand, if you remember, Iron Man was a big success. It was kind of a surprise hit for a lot of people. But The Incredible Hulk wasn't received well originally. It didn't quite make the money they were looking for. Iron Man 2 was a disappointment to a lot of people. It really took, Thor was also one that a lot of people were happy to see and they were surprised to see it, but it got lukewarm kind of reviews. Captain America is a great movie, but it wasn't for everyone. It took until the first phase with the MCU of up until the Avengers to really realize that this is a big powerhouse. And then they started to really get confident enough to keep pumping out what they're doing and stick to the plan. DC couldn't get to that point for two reasons. First reason is that they went too quick. They tried to catch up with Marvel, and when Man of Steel came out, Avengers was out. So they were basically just trying to fast track everything and make a Justice League movie as soon as possible. So they didn't establish the things that Marvel did so well. Second off, they just weren't quite confident. They started off with something and they said, we're sticking to this plan. I remember they had this big thing with Kevin Smith and Jeff Johns where they're showing off all these movies they're going to be making within the next 5 years and how confident they are in it. And then the moment Batman v Superman started to have questions to it because of edits that they made, they go, oh, maybe we shouldn't do this. And they completely switch their plan. Who knows? Maybe this can happen with this new team, but with a studio, I feel like they can really come up with, take the time to come up with a plan, especially with what Zaslav has been saying about, really quality over quantity and really taking the time with it. If he sticks to that, which he may not, but if he sticks to that, then they will have enough time to really flesh out something that will really work for 10 years, that will really build. They can get a cast in there that is willing to stick around for that long. They'll have, future plans. A lot of people are like, well, Kevin Feige, the reason it was such a miracle is because he didn't know what he was doing. He just kind of went with it and it worked out. While a lot of that is true, he had a plan. I mean, if Iron Man didn't work, we wouldn't have any other movies. That was the solution. But he made Iron Man and helped produce it with the intent of, well, in a perfect world, this is what I'd like to see. I'd like to see the Avengers come together. I'd like to see eventually Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet. I'd like to see us introduce, a Civil War movie. But they weren't 100% sure on that yet, but they had an idea. So I'm not saying they have to come out with a year-to-year plan with a movie that has an exact script that they will never change, and there will not be one plot point that will, go away from now until 2033 or whatever. All I'm saying is that if they have a studio and a team together who kind of really flesh out a really good overarching concept and get some good directors in there, get some people who really stick to deadlines, get some people in there who really stick to a plan and really just not go Marvel. They go Marvel method in the sense of that, but not go Marvel method in the sense of just copying Marvel. We could see a lot of good change, and we can see a lot of really good movies that we've been waiting to see for such a long time. The biggest question a lot of people have is, how are they going to get to this point? We have Black Adam coming out, we have Shazam 2 coming out, we have The Flash coming out, we have the Batman 2 coming out with Robert Pattinson. How are we going to, Joker 2, how are we going to get these movies to not, if we're going to start over, is this going to be a hard reboot, soft reboot? Are we going to get a completely new group of actors in there? Are we going to get new directors, a different storyline, different continuity? How are we going to do this? That's the question. The Batman 2 and Joker 2 are in very separate universes from even each other, let alone DC universe. Black Adam is in the DC universe, and they're introducing a lot of new characters, a lot of the JSA, things like that. And The Flash, originally, they had their own plan of rebooting. And I still think that's one reason why that movie hasn't been canceled. I know that movie, is like $400 million to make. They've already put a lot of time and effort into it. But I think beyond that, I think they just think that is our best option to reboot this universe. And I think that's why it's pushed back so far. And it's from what I'm hearing, they're going to push back Aquaman and Black Adam as well. And I think the reason is because Zaslav has said he likes those movies, they can be better. That's what he said in the conference call for the Q2 meeting. And I think what he means by that is I think those movies have a lot of potential to be really successful and really good. But I also think we need to start planting some seeds to our direction here in the future for the next 10 years. And whether that is, having all those characters never come back after those movies and just really adjusting them to be kind of a final thing, or whether it's hinting these seeds within the movie that, they're going to continue on. It'll be a soft reboot. We'll get a lot of, we'll get a new Superman and Batman and whatnot, Flash. Maybe that'll be the case too. But I think what they want is Aquaman and Black Adam to come out, and then they want Flash to come out last. And Flash is going to somehow, they're probably going to take more time, which that movie's been being worked on for years. I think they're going to take even more time to do more reshoots, probably without Ezra Miller, and try to find a way to make it so that will kind of hint towards where we're going for the next 10 years. Whether that's new actors show up at the end, whether that's a hint at new actors showing up at the end, we get a new Flash, we get a sign that this is a new universe, whatever. That's probably their best option, but that's just an idea. When it comes to Black Adam, I think that's also an opportunity for them, that they could technically take some time to reshoot that movie, or to add a few things in that movie to have that represent the end of this current DCEU and the new one. You can have, the Flash still come out, or you can cancel it if you are over the Ezra Miller stuff, and then you can just have Aquaman come out, and then Black Adam, since they're introducing a lot of new characters with all the JSA people, you can really just add a few more hints that this is a different universe, and we're just kind of watching this for the first time, and this is hinting towards the future. That gives enough time for them to find the Superman they're looking for. Matt Reeves can do his Batman trilogy or his 2 movies or whatever. You can have Joker 2 come out, which don't connect at all. That can kind of tie people over while they get some stuff worked out, and they can really hype up the next group who are going to be taking over these roles, whether that's Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, whoever. And so you're like, yeah, I'm excited because I love this. The Batman's been so good, but I'm wondering who they're going to bring into this universe that we've been seeing a little bit of from Black Adam. These are all just my ideas. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but they do have some options. It's going to be tough. It is going to get confusing for a lot of people. When it comes to Michael Keaton, I think he'll still appear in Flash. Obviously not in Batgirl anymore. Obviously not in Aquaman anymore. I'm okay with that. I really like the idea of bringing back Michael Keaton as Batman, but I don't like the idea of Michael Keaton being the sole Batman within the DC universe for the future. So it would be really cool to see him come in and be back in the suit and kind of do some badass stuff for a movie, kind of like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. But I don't want to see him, take over completely. I think we need somebody, no offense to Michael Keaton, I'm sure he agrees, somebody younger, somebody who's willing to do multiple movies, and that's that. When it comes to Superman, I'm really sad. I really feel like Henry Cavill's not coming back. But if they do have to do that for the sake of, continuity, or for the sense of keeping things fresh and having someone new in there to do some new stuff, that's fine by me too. I'm always willing to see someone try out the Superman role. Tyler Hoechlin from Superman and Lois and from the Supergirl show, I was not really looking forward to him being Superman because we already had Henry Cavill, and he's done nothing but surprise me in that role. So there are multiple people that you will look at and go, gosh, he just doesn't look like Superman to me. Same with Batman, and they show up and they do a really good job. So I know this is a bit rambly. We're going on almost 30 minutes. My opinions are mine only. Don't get mad at me for my opinions on that. I think when it comes to the Batgirl situation, it's very sad, but I understand kind of from a business standpoint. It's very unprecedented and kind of depressing to see something like that kind of fizzle out so late into production. I hope it doesn't set a precedent for the future. But I do kind of see, if they're really trying to make a lot of breaths of fresh air for people and, not showing any sign that this is a similar universe to what they've been having trouble with for 10 years, that's fine. When it comes to the merger, we have to wait and see. It's a business. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and we'll see how the streaming service works out. And when it comes to the DC universe in the future, I'm cautiously optimistic. And the reason I'm cautiously optimistic is just because we have heard this before, and we have been through so much as DC fans. And you never know what can happen. They can go right back to their old ways because it is still Warner Brothers. But who knows? We may see a sign of good things to come because we have some new blood in there, some new ideas, some people who maybe actually look at their mistakes from the past and try to go from there and try to, because I got to tell you, DC doesn't have too many more years to be able to be playing this game. I'm really worried if DC doesn't start, putting some stuff together that works, they won't be able to survive. It's just not going to be viable for them. People are already not excited for a Superman movie. People are already not excited for a new Wonder Woman movie or an Aquaman movie. The Marvel movies have kind of made them feel like the only way you can go is through Marvel. That's why a lot of people want to see Marvel and Disney buy DC, which is the worst thing that can happen, because then there's no competition, and healthy competition is the only thing that keeps that money rolling and the movies coming out. So, for everyone's sake, I hope this works out. And I hope we get some really good DC movies that people have been looking for. I hope they give Marvel a run for their money. And it has nothing to do with competition at this point. The Marvel has gone above and beyond with what they've been trying to do. And I don't think DC will ever get to that level. And if they do, it'll be a long time after Marvel has felt good about it. So there's no real competition, but in the sense of the market of superhero movies, and especially with how fragile it is right now, there's always this talk of superhero fatigue. Marvel is starting to show some signs of wear and tear with their CG and with the amount of content they're just constantly throwing in your face. It's kind of makes people sick sometimes, as much as I love it all. So, if DC can come out with something kind of fresh for the superhero genre and make something that is just as compelling as the Marvel stuff and just as successful as the Marvel stuff, it'll be a good thing for all of it. It'll be a good thing for Marvel. It'll be a good thing for DC. It'll be a good thing for any other superhero genre thing they want to do. So let's all hope that this is something that goes in the right direction. No one should want to wish failure on this unless you don't like superheroes at all and you're sick of that genre. I get it. But if you like this, and you want to see more of this stuff, whether it's Marvel or DC, we got to really all hope that this is going in the right direction. So, it's fun to make a video again. It was fun to, be able to talk to a camera. I haven't done that in a while. I think it was like the Batman review. My comic book collection has exploded into something I never anticipated I'd ever have. So that's something too. But I hope everyone is doing well, and thanks for watching. I know it's a long video. Leave your comments below on how you feel. You can disagree with me. That's totally fine. But also, if you agree with me, let me know too. And what are your thoughts on this future for DC? And we'll see all together, I guess. So I'll see you guys around next time.